All right, there we go. So this is week 3 of this section of the course. And we are here kind of wrapping it up for this section of the course. We did just start another section 3 of this course this week. And in 2 weeks, we'll start section 4. So if you feel like you want to come back and take this course with us again, you can. Let's kind of jump in and look at what we have as far as content for this week, things that are opening this week. And then I'm happy to answer any questions that you may still have. There we go. Hopefully my share screen will come up here in just a minute. Okay, so this week we looked at, well, last week we looked at site-wide UX changes or course level changes. Let's collapse a few of these. This week we have activity level changes and features that we love so far. There are a couple of things to know about activities. In here, we have the lesson. Now, so we're using the lesson, and I like to start here because we can see that there's been some changes to the interface in lesson. So when I click into a lesson, I now have this edit lesson button right here and grade essays right here. Previously, I had a cog in the upper right-hand corner. I had an edit tab up here at the top, but now those two most widely used features have been moved over and they are right in my line of vision. And this is the consistency piece that we're seeing throughout here, is that things are moved into the line of vision. They're all kind of moved into a place where you can easily see them. You don't have to look around anymore for those cogs in the upper right-hand corner of an activity to get into edit it. So if I want to edit the lesson, I can come right in here and choose to edit the lesson if I'd like. And if I click that button, you can see I come where I see my whole lesson here. And that's all right in here. But if I were going to go back, now let's say I don't want to edit, I want to go back. I just click that back button. I'm going to click to just start my lesson over here. So I've come in and I'm doing the preview of the lesson. Now, on the previous screen, we had edit lesson and we had grade essays, but now we have this option to edit just the page that we're on. And that button is right here. And if I click this, this page will reload and take me directly to editing for just this page. I can come in, update my descriptions, my content jumps, whatever I need to do here. And if I decide, oh, actually, I don't need to be here, I can just click lesson again, and I'll come right back out to that main lesson page. My settings, like they are in most activities now, are here at the top. So again, I don't have to go and edit settings on this particular thing. I can come right in here and there we are. I'm able to edit pretty easily once I get in to the lesson. So very similar. Again, it's that consistency. If I'm in an assignment or if I'm in a forum or any other activity, the ability to get in and edit the overall settings for that activity are right here at the top. Under the reports tab for lesson, here I can see who has and has not completed things. So people who started and haven't completed yet, people who've gone through and completed. We have some people who've gone through a couple times, but I am able to see that. I can see the course grades, but I have this drop down, and you'll start to see this anywhere we have that reports tab. We have these drop downs now to toggle between the different report options for any given activity. For lesson, we have 2. We have the overview and then the detailed statistics. So I can look if I have questions, and I can see what people's answers were if I had questions in there. And that would give me overall class statistics about how people answered that particular question. Those detailed statistics are pretty important because they're going to pop up again when we talk about improvements to quiz and question bank in just a moment. But you can see that the overall editing interface of lesson has improved. There are no new features inside lesson. So it's not like where we have the timed option for assignment, but there are 2 global features to know about. The first is, and I think we've talked a little bit about this, but that in any activity now, let's scroll down, we have this option to send content change notification. So any activity or resource, we're going to have this. This means that if I've updated something or I added something new, I can tick this box and choose to have my users notified that there's an update or new content. They're going to get an email that tells them that there's been an update, and then they can click in and come see the updated content. This is unchecked by default so that you have the option to send this only for those things that you want to send it for. I like this feature. There used to be a feature where if I changed anything that those notifications were going out. I like the option to either send it or not. And I like this because let's say I updated a due date on something, or we had a class discussion and I thought, oh, I found this article. I'd love to share it with the class. It kind of pertains to something we talked about. I can post those things and this notification will go out so that users don't miss any of that new content. This is a question that we get pretty frequently through our support portal as clients open tickets, which is how can I notify people that I've made a change or that I've added something new? Well, now you have that option here. The other option we have now under activity completion, student must receive a passing grade to complete this activity. This was an activity completion criteria in quiz, so it was there for a while, but we didn't see it in other graded items, but now we do. So any item that can be graded, lesson, forum, assignment, quiz, things like that, will have this option that one of the completion criteria can be that a student must receive a passing grade to complete this activity. And you might wonder, why do we want to have that there? There are a couple of reasons. We can decide that a student doesn't progress past certain content until they've passed, received a passing grade on that content. So if I need to take a quiz and get a passing grade before the next module opens for me, I have this option. The other way that we can use this is, let's say that we had an assignment and it was due on November 1st, and I have all the grades out on November 3rd. And, I'm grading, I get my grade as a student, and I have not passed this assignment. So whatever, I didn't meet the minimum criteria. As a teacher, I could set up remedial content and say, the access to it is restricted unless you did not complete this activity here, and you didn't, we've reached a certain date. So if it was due on November 1st, I could say for the remedial content will open, becomes available. It's date restricted. So I do a combination of restrict access. You can't get into it until November 3rd, and you must not have completed this graded activity. So I can start to combine some of the activity completion and the restrict access like many of us already have, but I can do so to create a more personalized experience for my students. And I can use this to kind of make sure that they have access to additional materials if they need it. We often sometimes too have courses where it's required that people pass every exam or every assignment because that's the nature of that program. And now we have an ability to very quickly see, either through the gradebook, obviously we've always had that, or on the activity completion report. And the reason I like that I can have this option, must receive a passing grade to complete this activity, is that if I look on my activity completion report, and I have a very easy graphic representation of who has and hasn't completed something. So these two features you will see throughout. This send content change notification you will see everywhere. So in all of the activities and resources, and this must receive a passing grade to complete the activity, you will see in all graded activities. So anything that has a grade, you'll see that there. So those are two feature enhancements, not specific to lesson, but they are threaded throughout. Lesson itself didn't get anything new, but we did see that there's the editing interface. Janelle asks, oh, hang on. There we go. Does the content change notification indicate what's been changed, or does it just say there was a change? You should have received at least one for this particular course, but it does tell you there's been an update. You cannot customize the notification text by instructor. That's going to be based off of a language string on the site. So that's a global setting in your language pack. So you won't be able to individually customize that. In a second, I'll go and look. I do actually have one of these notifications. And if I can find it and bring it up, I will do so. Give me 1 second here. See if we can find it and I will show it to you. All right, let me show you what that looks like. It says, so I posted one when I updated the webinar connection information in a different course, and it says, page webinar connection information with a direct link to the page has been changed in the course, Build a Better Course, with a direct link to that course. And then it gives me an option to change my notification preferences if I want. And then it asks me if I'm reading in an email, do I want to download the mobile app? So for me on the Academy, I will likely make some changes to that language string. I don't always want people to change their notification preferences. When I used to teach, I didn't necessarily want people to change them because they would turn them off. But it's not a sidetrack at all. That's an excellent question, Janelle. And I will add some additional information into the course on a page that tells you where to go, which language string this controls the notification, just in case you do want to change that. Because I can look at that and say, I would want to change that. I can almost guarantee that download the mobile app, because this is a Moodle core language string, is going to drive people to download the Moodle mobile app. But I would want to change that so they download the OpenLMS mobile app. So that might be something that I'm going to share with our product team and say, hey, here's a place where people are being prompted. Let's make sure that we're connecting them out to the correct mobile app. So I will put some more information in the course about that. That was an excellent question. All right. Also in this lesson this week, we have a few other things that have changed. So we've popped into the lesson here. We talked about how lesson navigation looks a little bit different. We talked about that grade to pass completion criteria. And we already talked about the new and updated content, new updated content notification. So when it comes to the navigation at the bottom here, not much has changed. The buttons are more prominent than they have been in the past, which I think is going to make things a little bit easier for our learners. Again, you title these buttons anything you want. The next big feature is this timed assignment feature. This is a pretty interesting one. This has been a feature request for a long time. So basically, I can create an assignment and I can set a time limit for it. So I might have an essay question and I'm doing an exam, and I want people to be able to write in the, I want them to be able to submit their assignment. They have a nice editor in there if they're typing things up. They can upload a Word document if they need to. I can provide feedback in different ways than I can on quiz, and I can assess in a different way than I can on the quiz. So in assignment, I have these options for advanced grading. So what happens here for a time assignment is I set up a time limit. Let me actually come out to the course and we'll walk through one. And so I can show you what happens. All right, so if I am creating an activity and I pick assignment, I have all of my options here that I always have. Except in assignment, I have this other cool thing where in addition to the description, I can actually give instructions. And when someone comes into the assignment, they can see both the description at the top, and I can display that on the course page, and I can put the instructions in here. So I can now separate those two. But let's go down, and down here we have this time limit. I can enable this. So if I'm a student and there is a 30-minute time limit on this, from the moment that I access this assignment as the student, I will get a countdown clock in the upper right-hand corner that counts down from 30 minutes to 0. Once my 30 minutes are done, I need to submit. So I need to click submit. I can't, continue on with the assignment. But what happens here is that I can kind of set this up now. We used to use the essay question type on the quiz, but we couldn't use rubric or grading guide to provide feedback. So now I can replicate that quiz-like experience in the assignment and have my advanced grading methods, as well as allowing different submission types, so online text and file, so someone can upload a Word document or a PDF, or it actually doesn't have to be a written test. So this comes up often in computer science and places like accounting, or things where people want someone to use like an Excel file and they need them to upload it. I can dictate which file types I'm accepting. Under feedback types, I can choose how I'm giving feedback here. Am I giving comments? Am I going to take the file a student submitted, mark it up, and send it back to them? And under grade, I have that option in here for simple direct grading, marking guide, or rubric. I can still hide my grader identity. I can use marking workflow. So all of the features I've always had with assignment, but now I can add this ability to time it, make it a timed assignment. So I can use the assignment module now as a true assessment in a classroom. And I think that this is a pretty significant improvement, something that people have asked for a long time. And it's not just the ability to time things, but now we have that ability to provide feedback in ways that are truly meaningful for our learners, because we can add files and because we can grade via rubric or mark or grading guide. We couldn't do that in quiz. So those are the big improvements there in assignment, that the ability to create this timed assessment, and also the fact that we can separate out the instructions for the assignment from the description of the assignment. So that is what we have for assignment. Are there any questions so far about the content change notification, the grade to pass, or what we have going on here in assignment? All right. If you think of any, go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to open my course index and navigate right back down to where we were, which was right down here. We're going to pick up at where we left off and close our course index. So assignment feature. Then we already talked about kind of what's new in lessons. So these are the things that we're noticing at the activity level. Overall, your navigation inside any activity has changed because you have the activity here, the settings. Often you'll have the reports tab and then the more tab where you can kind of click. And these are more course level things. So I have overrides, but if one thing to note in that timed assignment, I can still add user overrides or group overrides if I have a person or a group of people who need maybe time and a half, or they have an accommodation that grants them a different amount of time, or they need to take that assessment on a different day. I can still do that with my overrides. Filters applies more to the course as a whole. Permissions will be this activity permission, and then backup and restore are actually course options. So they're kind of always there for you. If I come back, or if I just go to the next option here, so new and quiz and question bank, I am actually going to bring up another site on the side here so that I can show you some true quiz statistics. We have like a demo site where we have some pre-populated data that I can show you that's not actually anyone who takes courses with us. It's most of them are characters from the Lord of the Rings. So we'll go and take a look at that so that we can illustrate really what's new in Quiz and Question Bank. But there's a pretty significant enhancement in terms of what we have going on with our Quiz and Question Bank. All right, hold on. I just misplaced you all. I closed my tab and now you're down here somewhere. There you are. Okay. So here we are in this writing course, and we do have some quizzes in this course. Again, this is our other site that we have here, completely Boost. There's no just a straight Boost site here using one of our presets that gives some of this coloration in the background. When we come down into Unit 1 here, and in Unit 1, I have a quiz. So let's go down here. There it is, my Unit 1 scavenger hunt. So if I click into this, I'm looking at the quiz. Just like I have other places, I have the quiz tab. So this is like the activity tab, the settings for this activity. In quiz, I can look at the individual questions. I can look at the results and navigate to the question bank very easily now from directly within the quiz. I can see how many attempts, if there's overrides, and then of course I have my quiz summary here, the time limit, grading method, and the grade to pass. I can preview the quiz from here. I can also click the questions tab, and it will tell me I can't add or remove questions because the quiz has been attempted. A couple of things to note in here. We have the option to repaginate in multiple items. This is off to the left. The save button for maximum grade is here, and adding a question, that button gets more prominent as well. Currently in quiz, it's sort of like a link kind of buried off to the side. But one thing I want to show you here, I'm looking at my quiz. Here's my questions, and you'll see I have this new column called Always Latest. And that is because we have the ability to version questions now. So within the question bank, if I had a question and I said, oh, I need to update this question. When I update it, that will become version 2. And on my tests, I have the option to always pick the latest version of a question or pick a specific version of a question. So when I'm building that, I can choose which one I'm picking. So that's new. That is a new feature inside Quiz. Let's hop over to the question bank so I can show you something here. A couple of things, actually. So I'm in the question bank, and first thing, I have this drop down. I can look at questions, the categories in the question bank, import and export. Those are all right here in the drop down now. I can look at I can look by category here. I'm going to pick this one right up here. because I have 48 questions. This page will automatically reload. I don't have to do anything. So there we are. Now I'll see all of the questions. I will say that this is a little bit like where the created by is a little bit of a strange column. So it like makes things kind of tall, but here's what I'm looking at. I can show the question text in the question list, show questions from subcategories, and show old questions. If I untick this and I let that reload, this will actually lay out a little bit more nicely, I think. There we go. Okay. Definitely lays out more nicely. So here's my first question, acknowledging sources. I have an option. I can edit, duplicate, manage the tags, preview it, look at the history of the question, meaning all of the versions and how this is performed, delete it or export it. Status is brand new. This I love this status piece. So I can make a question ready or I can revert it to draft status. If a question is in draft status, when I am going to add questions to my test, it will not show up as a question that I can add. And if I'm doing like random questions where I've put a bunch of random questions in my question bank and I say to the test, to the quiz, I want you to pull 10 random questions from this bank, it will not pull against the draft questions. So if you want to revert something back to a draft because it's under review or you're not ready to publish it as an active question yet, you can leave it in draft status now. This is a new feature. I have version history here. So you can see in this acknowledging sources, this was updated on November 1st, and that is version 2. So where I had that option here to look at the history, if I click that option, I can see now version 1 and version 2. I can also leave comments on these now. So myself and other teachers who have access to this content bank, to this question bank, can leave comments on these particular questions. So perhaps I don't want to use version 1 anymore because I've revised this. I can revert that to draft status and go with version 2 instead. So when I make changes, I can now see the full version history, every version of that question right here. I can preview those. I can check them out. I can revert them to draft status. I can still edit them if I need to. And coming back out to the question bank, when it comes to comments, so if I want to leave a comment on on something, so let's see, here's scavenger hunt. And it's a ready question. I'm on version 1. And then I have this other little thing here. So I love this too. For need checking, this is going to populate with an unlikely or a very likely based off of the statistics. So Moodle is automatically calculating whether or not a question should be reviewed based off of facility index and discriminative efficiency. So pre-programmed into the system in the background are what the acceptable ranges for each of these are, as well as how they interact with one another to determine whether or not you should maybe review your questions. Scavenger hunt here, I can see that my facility index is 20%, which is great, and my discriminative efficiency is 100. If these are newer terms to you and you click the question mark, the facility index is the average mark as a percentage obtained on the question across all versions that have ever been given in all quizzes where the question has ever been attempted. This is also new. So previously, when we would look at statistics, they were kind of drilled down inside the individual quiz. And we were looking at that question on that quiz. And we can still do that when we look at the statistics by quiz. But in the question bank, the statistics associated with any given item are a running history. So it is that item's performance over time for every time it's ever been used, all of the data coming together to give you a true facility index and a true discriminative efficiency. Discriminative efficiency is a statistical calculation that estimates how well this question discriminates between whether or not a student actually knows the answer or they don't. So if a question is really, really easy, you could end up with a facility index of either 0 or 100. And if it's way too hard or it's not really something that determines whether someone knows the content, you'll end up with a low score there. So here, I probably don't need to review this, even though this is up high. This number is okay, so it's telling me I probably don't need to review it. But this scavenger hunt question, my statistics are terrible on this. I can see that this has been used in 2 different places. And if I click this, I now can see every quiz where this particular question was used and how many attempts are on that question. So in this case, My stats aren't good, but only 6 people have ever attempted this question. So it's only been attempted 6 times in the history of existence. That's not a lot of data to go on. If I had 30 people in a course and I gave this in, section 1 and section 2 and section 3, I would see each of those listed here with the course name and the number of attempts on that question per course, or per quiz. So it's like actually per time I've used it. If I'm looking at this question and I'm like, I don't know, let me look and see what's going on with this question. I can preview it. So if I click to preview it, I can take a look here and I can look at it and maybe I say, oh, you know what? I do see that there's an issue here. I'm going to close the preview and I'm going to make a comment and say, I'm going to put this question under revision. And once this closes, there we go. I'll show you how I did that. So I'm going to come back down. Oh, it's reordered my whole page on me. Let me find it again. Of course, it moved it on me. There we go. So I'm going to leave a comment and I'm going to tell the other teachers, I'm placing this back in draft. I review this for replacement. I can add that comment. When I close out of here, I can click the X at the top or down at the bottom. And now what you're going to see is that it's going to reload. And here it is. I can see that I have one comment in there. I can revert this one back to draft because I am reviewing it. And so now I have this ability to track these questions and their stats over time, see everywhere this question has been used, have automatic statistical analysis that lets me know whether I should review a question or not. Good statistical display. I can also leave comments about the question. So if I'm using a question bank that I'm sharing with other teachers or across other courses, everyone can see those comments now. Everyone who's a teacher and has access to that question bank will see the comments. I can also revert things back to draft status. I have the versioning. So if I update a question, I can see that it's a new version. When I create the quiz, I can choose which version of the question I'm pulling in. So if there was 4 versions of a question, I can choose always pick the newest version or any one of the other 4 versions, and that can feed into my quiz. And you might be wondering, like, why would you use a version other than the newest? Sometimes when we create quiz questions, we will swap out like one distractor in a question, so that it's still a very similar question, but we might swap out one of the wrong answers and keep the right answer, so we can have different versions of the question. Still kind of gets at the same concept, but we have like a different version of it with some different distractor choices. That's one reason people might choose to use something that's not the most recent version, but also I can now look back on a quiz and see, oh, on this quiz, I used version 1 questions, and on this one, I used updated versions for these ones. So as I go over time, Moodle will show me which version of a question I used on any given test. So that's just kind of how that versioning piece works. I'm going to hop over to the chat here. Let's see. It is super easy to navigate around the quiz and question bank now. Much more easy because that was not a great interface in the 3, all through Moodle 3. So it is nice to have that. Nicole, yes, when you create a question directly in a quiz, you have the option to place that question in one of the categories. So it will automatically go to the question bank either way, but you can also choose which category it's going to go in. And if I come back and I look by category here at the question bank, you'll see that this part kind of lays out still similarly, where I have the link that takes me into the question bank. I can see total number of questions, where it's the default category. I can move the categories up and down or make an existing category a child category for something else. There are lots of great improvements here in terms of statistics and versioning and draft and active questions in 4.0 there will be additional features brought into Quiz and Question Bank in 4.1. So this is an extremely large project that will span over 2 major Moodle releases. So if you are someone who upgrades in December, you will have all of this. And then in July, for those people who upgrade in December, they also have a July upgrade. Or if you're just going over the summer to upgrade, then you will get all of this plus what comes out in 4.1. So there will be some additional features that come through. There's a lot of development happening on the Quiz and Question Bank side to make it easier to navigate, have a nicer user face and interface and user experience, but also to improve like statistical analysis, historic statistics, and interpretation of those statistics. So that is what we have going on in Quiz and Question Bank. Now, what I'll point out here is that here on this site, we upgraded this site. It came from this was like an old a 311 site, and we upgraded it. When we upgraded all of these options, hold on, that we had, so all of these questions that we had, the statistics were automatically updated for them. So when we brought this over, it Moodle automatically through the update looked at all of these questions, updated all the statistics for them, and carried them over into here. So what you're seeing here is historic information. None of this is new. So no one has taken this actual quiz since we upgraded the site. So all of the stats are actually all of the historic stats being brought in and updated and put here in the question bank. So for all of the quiz that you have used over time, all of those stats will now feed into here. There's nothing that you need to do to make that happen. It all happens automatically. So I wanted to point that one of the questions that has come up is will the statistics start tracking only from the time we upgrade? And the answer to that question is no. It will pull in all of the historic statistics as well. All right. So navigating back over to our quiz. There it is. Any questions that I can answer about quiz or question bank or anything else we've talked about today? All right. So that is what we had really for this week. The end of course details, we're going to pop in there the download for the glossary that we have in this course, the one that tells you like, where did all my stuff go? We're going to have some additional information for you. So on December 1st, we'll publish a video library. There will be 3 separate video libraries, one that is faculty facing, one that is for admins, one that is for students, with very, very short videos that tell people like, where do things go or how do I do something. So for example, from the student perspective, we'll have something that says, where did my grades go? And we'll have a screenshot that says your grades used to be here. It's a very short video. Your grades are now here, and we'll click in and just give them a tour of what they see in the user report. We will do the same for pretty much everything that has changed from the 3 perspectives. So for example, timed assignment is a perfect example. For a faculty, it will be how to set the timed assignment up and what the implications are. For the admin, it will be the reminder that you have to enable timed assignment on the admin side. And for the student-facing video in that video library, it will show a student what it looks like when you enter a timed assignment and what your responsibility is to make sure you're submitting your assignment before the time runs out. So look for that to be released on December 1st. We will be sending information about that out in both the client newsletter, but also in the release notes and things that come out when we do those upgrades to Sandbox. Also, what I'm going to do is down in the bottom of this course, in that last section, we're going to pop in the link if you haven't opted in. So if you're not receiving our client newsletter, which comes out, I think it is monthly, we send one out, or any of our communications like that, might be because you haven't opted into the new mailing option that we have. So I'll have a link there so you can just fill it out and opt in. Each individual person who wants to receive email communication from us does need to opt in. So make sure you fill that out if you want to. And then I'll just have some other helpful links and tips in there as well. And we'll put all of that in the end of course section here toward the end. So Janelle, Sandbox is around until they've been about a year of inactivity. But what's the timeline for the What's New for course? So when the What's New in 4.0 course, we won't close this one. We'll just leave it open. And we also will begin, as of January 1st, we will begin offering the What's New in 4.0 course on a monthly basis, taking us straight through to July, which is when, by then, probably the majority of our clients will have updated. So you can always kind of come back here and check into things. Um, Gretchen, I'm going to do a walkthrough on Classic. I just saw that every time I've gone into the other site, someone was using it, but I'm going to do a walkthrough on Classic, and I will post it in the course here. And when I do, I will make sure that content change notification goes out so that you get an email that tells you that we posted that. But yeah, so you can absolutely refer back to this course. If you are wanting to make your own training videos, feel free to use your own Sandbox course that you have on the site, or to even like from a student perspective, if you want to make some videos, go ahead and use them here. You're free to record as you're going through this course to create some of your own resources as well. All right. Well, today's a little bit shorter of a webinar. We are so thankful that you were able to join us and to give us the feedback that you have and to have these great conversations and good questions here in our webinars. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. As I mentioned, we started section 3 of this course this week. We will run one more. Section 4 will start in 2 weeks, not next week, but the following week if you decide, hey, I want to join again. Or if you actually want to have, other faculty or other people you know who use Moodle, they don't even have to be our client. This course is completely open to anyone who's a Moodle user. Feel free to refer them over and have them join section 4 with us, or even, in the spring. We are happy to run through this. There's no limit on the number of people from your organization who can enroll with us. So feel free to share this widely if you'd like to. All right, everyone. Well, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend. If you need anything, you know where to reach us. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been wonderful.